son's name is Matt. I was mixed it. I call him Mark and Mark Matt. Anyway, thank you so much for coming and to share with us a celebration of Mark, his life. And so, if you will indulge me, I will take you on a journey of Mark's life from the perspective of his brother. So, Mark and I met on August 5th, 1953, and I was very excited. I now had a little brother to play with, because being an only child was kind of hard. However, Mark was a little small to play with, had to be gentle, so I had to wait a few years. But I could tell right away that my brother, my little brother, was going to be an adventurer, and that suited me just fine, because that's what brothers do. Mark and I grew up first in Arcadia, here in a suburban home. However, we were very fortunate to have a very large backyard. Backyards are great for kids. And it was bordered on one side by a chicken egg ranch, and a large field in the back. Lots of open space. And being boys, we did not hesitate to take advantage of that play space. We had a very nice tree house. You remember the tree house?
Yes, I do.
And one side of the yard, our dad built it for the most part, but Mark and I would always hammer some boards in here and there to augment the space. In a very large grassy field to play all kinds of sports. We loved sports. However, mowing that lawn was a big job, and it took both of us to get that lawn mowed. In this, I mention it because it comes up later. At the back end of the lot was an empty field and lots of piles of junk. And we'd go through all that junk. And we found some old wooden snow skis that we eventually used. I'll talk about that a little bit better later. We went to Holy Angels Catholic School and grade school. And that was our time in Arcadia. It's kind of a cool place. Our next adventure was to be our greatest adventure that we had, and lasted us, gave us a lifetime of memories. Mark and I would spend hours on the phone to the very last days that we could speak, reminiscing about our adventures in the mountains of near Lake Arrowhead and Running Springs is where we lived. And I would like to regale you with some of the stories. Hope it's not too boring. So while we were in Arcadia, our parents decided to build a house, a mountain cabin, A-frame, in Running Springs. And we moved there full-time in somewhere around 1962. It's like forever ago. I was in 4th grade and Mark was in 3rd. And we went to those a few years of school there at the local school. And here's the key, both of our parents worked. And so we were pretty much free to roam nonstop every day. They never knew where we were. We were out in the wild. We were like kids from a storybook. It was just amazing. And Mark and I would just talk endlessly about those times. Our little sister, Renee, at the time, she was 3 or 4 years younger. We dragged her along whenever we could, but she was a little small for some of those climbing trees, but you know, whenever she could, she had some of those memories too. Some miles away to the east was a canyon and a small little river in that area, and it was dammed up, and a lake was formed, and that lake was just our playground. We just were there every day, fishing and hiking and swimming. We built a raft out of logs, and we raft around the place. It was just like heaven. It was just crazy. And that's where Mark and I both formed a lifelong joy of fishing. Of course, I just traveled there, but later on it became much more So one of Mark's biggest passions was fishing. What a life. Downstream, for example, downstream a few miles, the creek formed a deep canyon, very high vertical cliffs, solid rock, solid ground. We would climb up and down these cliffs without any safety ropes, without any fear of abandonment, right? It was just, we were just kids. And if our parents would have seen us, they would have had a heart attack from climbing up and down those cliffs, saying, "What are you guys doing?" But we did it anyway. It was absolute freedom. I wish every kid could have that freedom. That's. There were even rock art, Indian rock art, and holes that you could see were used for grinding, whatever acorns, whatever they had. So there was an Indian culture living there, hundreds or thousands of years in the past. It's a great place. I mean, we would just check all this stuff out, just imagine, the Indians living in that area. It was fantastic. And one of, even the school was great school. Part of our school curriculum was to ski and snow valley. And so those old skis that we pulled out of that junk pile became our first skis that we used on those slopes. It was just like crazy. We just use everything, right? So nothing was, we have to go somewhere fancy. No, it was use what we had. And one other memory that I thought I'd share is just unbelievable. Again, scary as heck to adults. We would drag our sleds up to the main road, and when the roads were iced over, we would just rocket down those roads. Just, again, it's like the luge, on the Olympics. It was just nuts. If there was a car that would come around the corner, that would have been it. We would have gone. That would have gone. It was just, and again, Mark and I would just sit there on the phone or whatever, just remember all that stuff. It was a great time. How am I doing the time? Speed it up. Our next adventure was when the family moved up, not too far from here. We sailed about in the cabin for summer adventures, but it was a new time for us because we both went through junior high school and high school there. And this is where Mark's passion really started to emerge. And I'm not talking about girls. As everyone knows, Mark's greatest lifelong passion was automobiles. And it shows in those pictures up there. He loved anything with an engine in it. Boats, track carts, mopeds, motorcycles, whatever he could find that had a motor in it. We even put together in our garage in Upland kind of a go-kart with an old lawnmower engine. We just tear around the neighborhood. I think it was fun. So Mark's motto was, long before it made famous in the TV show, Mark's motto was, more power. If I could put 5 horsepower, I'd go with 5 horsepower. That's what he would. And there was lots of open space there, in Orange Grove, so. I did have one, I gotta mention that Mark had a little bit of an evil side. He was saying, no, not Mark. Yeah, he did. He loved to tease. And at times he would sneak into Renee's bedroom at night, behind the closet, and growl and scratch and scare the crap out of her. Talk about therapy. She has to go to a psychologist and afraid of the dark.
Still am. Oh my gosh.
So anyway, Mark and I would just laugh out loud about those old times. After high school, our paths diverged a bit. I went north and went to university, but Matt's good. Anyway, Mark stayed in Southern California, stayed in this area. And he worked initially at our father's gas station, right on Highway 110. And eventually he started his own repair business, which was called
Motor Car Magic.
Motor Car Magic, that's right. And asked Mario. Yeah. And we did meet from time to time, our family, single camping, loved that. We still loved to go fishing. And the lure of the mountains was always in our blood, so that was something that we always did. And one year we went to Lake Powell for a camping trip. It was just fantastic. And so this tale brings us down to Mark's and I's, if you will, recent years. The one thing that always defined Mark was his kindness and his generosity. Sometimes dutiful. He was just that kind of guy. If someone needed help or assistance, Mark was always there to lend a hand. A smart thing for somebody to do if they knew Mark was to keep his phone number on speed dial. And I know that there was a number of members in the audience here who was part of the church. And it was great. I'm so glad that Mark could find a group of people to worship and socialize with that he needed that. He needed that anchor. Of course, that was right there to be his solid rock. And the last chapter of Mark's hobby adventure, because I guess I'm kind of concentrating on that, was his love of model trains. And he really loved putting together train towns and train yards, amusement parks, all that stuff. If you ever need any train stuff, I happen to know somebody who's got a lot of this stuff. He used to go on and on sometimes about state barbecues at the church. And Mark was a perfectionist. He wanted things done just right. And he would complain to me. He said, sometimes I just have to get in there and do it the way I want it. That's the way he wanted. He wanted it done. It was just unacceptable to cook a steak in the family. So that's what he wanted to do. Anyway, so the reason that brought Mark and I much closer at that during the last few years is because Mark needed a lot of help with the train stuff, electronics. I do electronic stuff. And he was very driven to make sure all of these parts worked perfectly and worked together. Again, he was just a perfectionist in that. Even if it would take him a lot longer to get it done, he wanted to get it right. And so, we will all miss Mark very much. His energy and enthusiasm for everything that life threw his way was exceptional. But I personally will miss him, especially for the companion, the soulmate, and the brother that he was. And I was very lucky to have had that person in my life. So, thank you all. I hope I didn't bore you to tears too much. I see some sleeping head. Thank you very much.